Welcome, Spartans, to Podcast Evolved, your home for Halo. I'm your host, Oren, and with me today I have Ian.
Hey, guys.
I have David.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista.
Hello!
And today we're going to cover the Xbox Games Showcase and a bunch of Halo Infinite news. We just saw the first gameplay reveal just a moment ago. We are actually live with our Discord right now. And guys, that was quite an amazing showcase. We got about 10 minutes of gameplay and some cinematic trailers and stuff. We have a lot to talk about.
Wait, they actually showed us Halo stuff? They do that now? I thought they stopped doing that.
For a game coming out in a couple of months, we finally know what it is about.
We don't even know that. We just know some of the gameplay.
That is true. There's still more to learn, and I'm sure they'll be peppering different things over the next couple of months as we get closer to the likely perceived November launch, and hopefully sooner. But we'll kind of just see how that unveils itself. We're gonna skip a little bit of most of our social stuff that we usually do at the beginning of this episode, just to kind of get to the meat and the bone of it all. But we do wanted to shout out and give a quick thanks to all of our patrons who are in the chat and who are listening to us on the regular episode feed. Thank you guys so much. We actually just hit our latest goal, I think, of 34 patrons. And so we will be kind of sharing that information with our patrons and looking at our new goals for what kind of make our podcast and our community better for you all. So thank you all who are currently patrons for supporting us. And if you would like to check out what it means to be a patron of yourself, you can head over to patreon.com/Halo Podcast Evolved and learn about the perks and all the ways you can help us out there. Now, Halo Infinite, guys. It was highly advertised. It's continually being advertised pretty much hand in hand with the Xbox Series X. It was the first thing out of the gate for the showcase earlier today.
God,
and
too.
I think it delivered on pretty much what it needed to be, which was we got some good cinematic, pre-rendered visuals that just kind of fleshed out a little bit of story and emotion. We got good gameplay. We got some character interactions. We got to see the Banished in the first-person sort of point of view, as opposed to the top-down that we're usually used to seeing them in Halo Wars 2. And then to cap it all off, we got a blog post from 343 Industries themselves, kind of talking about the beginning of this journey that we're gonna take from now until the end of the year. So we'll kind of pick apart each bit and kind of talk about our reactions, some of the things that we noticed, maybe ask the chat a few questions on what they liked, and just kind of get a sense of what this game is. So I guess, Ian, what's kind of your initial takeaway from the gameplay portion of the showcase, that kind of 8-minute demo that we saw?
Yeah, it definitely looked kind of like, I think, what everyone was expecting. It looks like it's some sort of open world. Obviously the graphics look pretty good for the most part. I guess, it's a little bit hard to kind of wrap my head around where we're at. I think the Waypoint post mentioned that the gameplay we saw was several hours into the game. So, I'm still trying to wrap my head kind of around the story. Obviously, we didn't see the Created in any sense. We just saw the Banished and the new leader, which I'm not going to try to pronounce that right now. I'm excited. I like the idea of the open world. I'm a little concerned because when Destiny 1 came out, I was really excited for it, and it just sort of missed the mark a little bit. The gameplay was great, and just the story and kind of the non-linearity of it was I just didn't catch me the way a normal linear story does. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. It looks like it's gonna be. I'm kind of guessing it's gonna be somewhat linear. And then you're gonna have these these kind of large missions, which is I think what maybe we saw us starting, and then you'll have like these kind of mini missions within that, and then maybe you'll move section to section. I don't know. It's still a little bit hard to say. With only 8 minutes, and we really didn't see a whole lot, obviously, of the entire game. So, I'm really excited. I liked seeing the advanced movement that we did see. I'm a sprint guy. I like the clamber, and I do like that the grappling hook a lot. I think that's a really interesting mechanic. I really enjoy that. I use that in Apex. I can't remember the character in Apex that has the grappling.
No, Pathfinder.
Yes, Pathfinder.
And they also recently have added it to Doom Eternal, another modern game from earlier this year.
I love that mechanic. So that's a big win for me. And we didn't see any Spartan. Was it Spartan the thrust or the Spartan charge? So which I think is probably the least favorite of everyone. So I'm good with that. It looks. I got some Halo 5 vibes for sure, and I got some Halo 3 vibes for sure. So I don't know. It's so far what I've seen. I think this is a good mix of my favorite parts of Halo.
The grappling hook I think was one of my biggest points of concern, because it was kind of pseudo leaked a few months ago, I think, and it was kind of heavily speculated. And then yesterday when 343 and Xbox revealed that kind of promotional image, we did see some sort of grappling hook like gauntlet attachment, and it kind of all but confirmed some form of equipment. And so I was cautiously optimistic that it would be well received. And what I saw, it kind of handled pretty much what a grappling hook was going to handle. Like, I'm not sure really what I was expecting. I think I was just nervous because it is a new element in the Halo universe. But yeah, what we saw, I think, just kind of going up a ledge or just grappling an enemy to get closer to kind of reduce that distance, kind of either shotgunning or do a beatdown or something, I think does warrant itself some interesting gameplay mechanics that I think doesn't really take away too much from what you would picture as classical Halo. But some of the other interesting bits that I really enjoyed was kind of the return to equipment, it seems. Where you have the what they're calling the drop wall from the kind of in-game text there, which is kind of a similar callback to the is it like a drop shield or I just had it off the top of my head.
Yeah, drop shield.
Yeah, drop shield.
Bubble shield
from Halo 3, as well as a kind of another take on the shield draining equipment from Halo 3, but it's more like a grenade, and it kind of shocks and maybe kind of paralyzes some of the enemies for a moment. That we saw that actually in the kind of 1 minute campaign trailer that came out after the event. So I'm excited to see these new and interesting equipment pieces that kind of add to the sandbox of how to fight these enemies and kind of approach gameplay. Because I really enjoyed that in Halo 3, kind of picking up these equipments like a landmine or a bubble shield, and kind of introducing those types of elements into the gameplay and kind of giving yourself that real sandboxy feel. David, is there what kind of strikes you from the gameplay trailer? We haven't talked about weapons or anything. Is there maybe a weapon or something gameplay mechanic wise that really caught your eye?
The new shotgun, the Bulldog. I really like the look of that bad boy. This kind of drum-based shotgun. I'm all about that. That looks really, really solid. I like a shotgun with a clip. It doesn't have to like be manually loaded. I'm all about that. The pistol looked like the Magnum from Halo 2. I'm not too happy with that. Like, it doesn't. The pistol looks small. Doesn't look solid. The way the CE pistol. That's kind of where I'm getting my vibes from. It doesn't look anything like the CE pistol. It reminds me of the Magnum from Halo 2. Which is not a good memory.
I was kind of getting some ODST pistol vibes.
A little bit. It looks the same color, but if it was silence and stuff, but I don't think we're getting that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, probably not silence, but in terms of that very, I guess maybe the Halo 5 gun magnum pistol, the one that just seems super tiny and quick and just literally just does pew pew pew, just kind of like just the.
No, I don't want no pew pew pew. Get out of here.
Pew pew pew.
No, well,
I like the pew pew.
No, get out of here. Pew 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 guns.
They're never bringing back the CE pistol in a campaign.
No, we can't.
You can't.
They can't.
Boo,
You just got to get over it. They'll bring it back in whatever war zone is
Give
in
them
this
all
game.
up.
They'll do it for me. That's what I think they showed a good variety of weapons. That's what I'm pretty happy about, like old and new and stuff like that. Well, mostly kind of new, I know.
They still...
I'm pretty happy with what they look.
The nice thing is that the weapons are maybe new, but they still feel like they belong in the Halo universe. Which is nice. They don't seem out of place compared to some of the weapons we've seen.
Yeah, I thought everything looked really good. I mean, it looks like a lot of new weapons, but I don't know. They all sounded really nice. I will say, before I forget, if I can't grapple a grunt and grab it and throw it at someone, I'm gonna be really upset.
Oh my god, that would be amazing if you could get like the methane tank to start going off, and then you could grab it and toss it.
Oh wow.
Oh man, yeah.
Or imagine grappling a suicide grunt and then just throwing it back at them.
Oh shit, that'd be great.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because we did see Chief grapple a fusion coil and throw it at a shade turret, so that type of mechanic is in the game, to kind of see what maybe more sort of elements that you can do with that if it's just locked into fusion coils and stuff.
It'd be called yeeting, of course it would.
Yeeting.
Going back to weapons, do we think we're going to see some of the like special weapons like we saw in Halo 5's campaign? Like the Answer and all those, Blood of Suban.
I mean, I could see it. I definitely think that it could just be implemented.
Yeah, and if this is what it looks like, which is an open world Halo game, they're going to need more weapon variations. So I think even if you can't modify the weapons, I think having more variants in there is a definite. I think we're very likely to see all kinds of stuff.
It would also give a little bit more of a kind of hunting nature to the open world, because another aspect of open world games is just kind of generally collectibles, and so like kind of imagine Halo 5 if it had some sort of open world nature of it, but say you missed some of those hidden weapons and stuff, but you got some sort of intel later in the game, it can kind of point you into those weapons to kind of get those, and maybe getting those guns unlock other upgrades and stuff that you can get. It can also help maybe find if there's terminals from past Halo games and if those kind of resurface in Infinite.
Yeah, I think there has to be a load of collectibles, like maybe logs telling you what happened and stuff like that. I'd kind of be happy with some like Bioshock-esque logs where you're going through like a crashed ship and you can find a dead body and a log next to it.
That's definitely going to be it, because that'll have to fill in the backstory of what Chief missed. Do you know what I mean? The whole, after we lost the war, he's floating in space for however many years, and then we come back, and then he has to dig out logs and find people. I'd say that's a definite.
Yeah, so kind of touching on that, the demo opens with a date, and we get May 28th, 2560. And then just below that, it fades in and says 167 days after we lost. And of course, the brood at the end there kind of talks about how humanity lost the war and they're still kind of carrying on. And so, do we think that we're going to be getting some kind of novelizations that kind of fill in some of those gaps between the 167 days, or really what
Kinda
happened
like
before that
codex?
fall, or do we think that some of that will be either not necessarily playable in flashbacks, but how much, I guess, do you think is fleshed out in game as opposed to extra
I
media?
think there needs to be like a Mass Effect-esque codex for Halo at this point. There's just so much lore.
Yeah, wouldn't 167 days before that date be somewhere around when Shadows of Reach takes place? Because isn't that
I'm not sure. That date is December 12th.
Is the
So I'm not sure when Shadows of Reach
I know it's
take
the end.
place.
I thought it was the end of 59.
Let me look it up on Amazon and see if I can find a good blurb.
Yeah, see what day Halo Reach takes, or Shadows of Reach is projected to take place, but the date that the UNSC or humanity supposedly lost the war is December 12th, 2559, which is not too long after the events of Halo Wars
October
2.
2559.
So it could
So
definitely...
a good 2 months.
Good tie-in, yeah.
Yeah, it could definitely tie in. Well, which... They
But
say
then
the war...
that means the book has to come out before the game then. So we know for sure the game, none of that's
The
launching.
Book comes. I mean, I don't necessarily. It has to, but it does come out at the end of October. I think now, October 20th, is the date of the book,
Yeah, I think that should still be...
or the date of the release of the book
that
in
should
our.
still be before the game
reality.
comes out, I would imagine. I'm still thinking... I'm still going with November 17th for the 117 reference. That's a Tuesday anyway, so...
I like that. Thought
Yeah,
it
I
was
like that
Saturday,
too.
Someone said, no? Is it Tuesday?
That means the console will drop
It is a
that
Tuesday.
day too, so we have to also
Right.
remember that this is going to be a console drop. Oops, sorry. Do consoles usually drop on
Yeah.
Tuesdays? I forget. Usually it's over the weekend that they drop, though.
Sometimes I think in the past it was I think the Xbox One was a Friday or a Thursday.
I'd be more up for
But,
that, just because it's easier to fit into your kind of work schedule. I hate getting like a new game and then having to, do the 9 to 5.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting as well to see how the world landscape is towards the end of the year, since there's still a lot of pandemic effect still going on through the summer. But to kind of get to that once we kind of go down there in terms of launch and all that kind of stuff. But to kind of reel it back into the gameplay, something else that caught my eye was the menu, to kind of talk about what we're going to see in this open world sort of gameplay. And of course, they no doubt probably toned down the icons and things for this demo, but when the player or chief opens up the menu screen, you kind of see the map overworld and some icons for the mission and some of the rewards that you get without any. It's kind of like flavored text on what the mission detail is, but you don't really know what type of resources or experience points you might be getting. But on the top, there's 3 sort of tabs, and so we get the TAC map, which is what we see. We get upgrades, and then we also get database. So Krista, going on what you were saying, to where there kind of needs to be some sort of timeline or just like kind of lore center for all the events that goes on with Halo being such a big universe and franchise. Can you see maybe this database tab being something like the Phoenix logs from Halo Wars 2?
Oh, definitely. It kind of has to be, because Halo Wars 2 kind of introduced us, because Halo Wars 2 almost had its own little codex with the timeline and everything like that. So I feel like there has to be, and like maybe the first time you encounter a grunt, it updates so you can read a little bit about grunts. First time you meet a brute, does that. It also depends on how long the campaign is. If it's a longer campaign, you need to have, all the main players and stuff there so that you can kind of familiarize yourself and remember as you're going through the campaign. Yeah, just like the Mass Effect Codex.
I'd love a Mass Effect Codex for Halo.
It's so good,
it's perfect.
And then equipment, upgrades. What do you think that we're going to be upgrading? Do you think we're going to be upgrading his armor, or do you think we're going to be upgrading weapons or equipment, or kind of all the above? Like how much, I guess, customization do we want to see in this kind of open world shift?
When it comes to upgrading the armor, we have to ask ourselves who would be upgrading the armor, because Master Chief's not getting out of his armor. Someone would have to do it for him. So does Brohammer have enough engineering experience to work on Mjolnir armor, or are we going to see Halsey in this game?
Well, I think we'll definitely see Halsey to some capacity, or at least hear her influence. And we kind of got a little bit of a tease with the cinematic trailer, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that is a good point. If we do have armor upgrades, then there needs to be some sort of interactive sort of conduit to do that. So do you think maybe, Krista, we might be getting more of like a gun and maybe like a equipment upgrade? Like someone from the chat third just said like maybe we upgrade the grapple distance, and that's something that kind of just gets expanded as you kind of continue on the campaign and unlock credits or whatever.
I feel like upgrades to external stuff like the grappling hook and weapons is something that Master Chief could do out in the field. When it comes to armor upgrades, I do think you need a hand. So I could see him upgrading, like finding maybe a gun with a silencer on it and taking it off and putting it up on another gun or something like that. But not armor upgrades.
Well, to kind of stay on that, David, we just did an episode on Road to Infinite about a month ago about the engineers, and some people in the chat are talking about engineers. Do we think engineers might be able to do armor upgrades?
Ooh, that'd be so cool to see some engineers in this. Yeah, I mean, they can do everything, right? They're the Halo thing, answer to all the things. So, yeah. I mean, it makes sense because we know the Banished have engineers. We know that there is some kind of Forerunner component to this. So why not? I think engineers would be perfect. I mean, I get the feeling the game is about building, do you know what I mean? Building your forces, building a base, building a resistance to fight back. And so I think you'll take a bit of everything. Why wouldn't you? I like the idea of a mission of maybe going and taking some engineers, going and rescuing them from the Banished. That'd be cool.
So just kind of lastly, before we move on to, I think, the cinematic trailer, just kind of talk about that real quick. We talked a little bit about the weapons, but some of the ones we didn't mention is that there's seems like an automatic DMR gun called the VX-79 Commando, which, like Krista said, just seems like it just very easily fits into the kind of Halo militaristic aesthetic. We also got a pulse carbine that is basically like a burst fire carbine rifle, which looks pretty interesting. And some brute weapons that we got is a Ravager, which is like a launcher, shotgunny like plasma weapon that kind of shoots out at a distance, kind of deals a lot of area of effect damage. So yeah, a lot of gun showcases in the trailer that kind of just further expands the sandbox, and we can expect to see a lot of more weapons kind of added in, and just kind of see it compare with all the other weapons that we have already, because we didn't see any Promethean weapons, then we're suspected to maybe have some of those back in there. Or I guess that's a good question. Do we think we'll see Prometheans? I think, Ian, you said that we didn't see any creative presence earlier at the top of the show. Do we think that maybe the Prometheans might have some sort of impact in the game alongside the Banished, or maybe in opposition of the Banished?
Yeah, I mean, we gotta have to see created at some point for sure. I mean, it looks like they're trying to not show that right now. Whether or not we see them earlier on, or we don't see them until later in the game, I'm not really sure yet. But I think 343 is just kind of focusing on Banished right now and ignoring the created, I think. One thing I did want to mention before I forget about it again, the one thing we did see a lot of, and I think we kind of expected this, but was a lot of wildlife, and to the point where normally in a Halo game your background is some ambient music, and there's a lot of parts in that trailer, or in that gameplay trailer, that it was just wildlife sounds, and that was amazing. That was fantastic. So whether or not we are just focused on Banished, or eventually see the created in some form, I'm just happy with that. That's just it takes it above and beyond any other Halo game that I've played so far, for sure. We did mention what was it? The Harbinger is mentioned.
The Harbinger.
And I don't know what is that. Is
I got Forerunner vibes.
You think so?
Yeah, that's where I mean, the obvious answer is is it the name for created? Is it the character? I'm getting the impression the way he spoke about it, that it's like the leader of a faction.
Do we think the Harbinger can be Cortana?
But then why not just say
it
Cortana?
sounded like something that they were allied with and not something within the faction itself. He didn't, when he was talking about Atriox, there was a familiarity. When he was talking about the Harbinger, it seemed like an outside source to me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I got the impression that it wasn't Banished that they were talking about.
Okay, so you think this is definitely something new as opposed to be applied to something else, whether it's like Cortana or the Created or even the Flood, if they're... Well, I guess they wouldn't be pairing with the Flood since they've fought them in the past.
Yeah, I think it's a new character.
A new sort of entity.
Yeah, I think whoever they were referring to, I got the impression it was like an it, do you know what I mean? That it was an individual that he was referring to, like the Harbinger. Doesn't sound like a group. I think it's the leader, say, of the other faction.
All right. Is there kind of anything else you guys want to touch on for this the gameplay demo, or we want to move on to some of the other informations that we got?
Do we want to talk a little more about the ring itself?
We can. What did you notice?
I'm trying to determine whether because we saw these like huge kind of pillars that were obviously parts of the ring that have kind of been jostled around, and that's just the underneath part. But interestingly enough, Installation 07 kind of was fucked up before we came to the ring because it was kind of just quickly retrofitted to fit into this current array. So, honestly, how much of the damage do we think is the war, and how much damage do you think had already happened to the ring? We definitely know that the ring was probably full when we first got it, but some of the landscaping issues might not have been caused by humanity. It might have been already there.
So I guess, do you think... So you're saying there's a possibility that some of this damage of the ring was present when the Zeta Halo project kind of started with Oni and their kind of presence there?
Because they also never found the monitor.
As a possibility, I guess, because
So if the monitor had abandoned the ring at some point and just didn't bother to fix it thoroughly, the ring could already be damaged, and then when the big fight broke out, the ring might have just been more susceptible to it. It's an interesting theory.
Yeah, I guess it's very possible for the Banished to arrive and kind of cause the mayhem and cause part of the destruction through the battles that eventually led to the UNSC losing. Because there's just holes in the timeline, I guess, to where any number of things can happen, but it's definitely shown in the trailer, in the demo, and even in some of the promotional material beforehand that the ring is kind of broken and shattered and trying to kind of fix itself to some degree.
So there was two other things actually that I was thinking of before we move on, though. If you look at that overview map, that like TAC map, and there's a couple of objects on there that aren't identified, and I'm a little curious on what they are. I think the one is probably that like tower thing that you see in the gameplay, and I don't know, we think it might be the Palace of Pain. But then there's other. If you look at that TAC map, there's it's like a wall, or it's almost like a train track, kind of like a Forerunner train track thing going on there. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts on what that is. If
Could
that's
it be
like
a quarantine
some sort of
wall
transport
or something, maybe?
Do you see what I'm talking about in that picture? I don't know if you have...
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. It's almost like kind of like a light rail system from
like
kind of real world.
In Primordium, there's that light, like a rail thing that they get on. So I'm wondering
that makes sense.
Is that what it is?
Might be worth it to reread Primordium going up to this, just that one, just because they kind of mosey around the ring quite a lot. Yeah,
I'm wondering how much of that book of the places they go we'll get to see.
I would imagine quite a few.
I love the map though. I liked how the map looked. I get very ODST vibes.
That was the
map.
right way to go with the map too, is to kind of harken back to ODST. Because that's the only really map we've ever had in Halo.
Yeah, but I like a 3D map. It looks like there's going to be like waypoints and objectives and
and you can see
things to go see.
And you can see a lot of the damage on just from that map, because there's like canyons of there's those hexagon like blocks that it's kind of built off of. And so you can see there's, I don't know if that's supposed to be that way. I imagine that's damage, either, fissures or something. So, I mean, there's a lot of damage in that area, even that you can't necessarily see when you're walking around the gameplay. So I'm really curious to see where all that goes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of scrubbing through the video to kind of see when Chief goes up the elevator and you kind of see the big vista, and yeah, that strange Forerunner structure that's off in the distance. I feel like the way it's oriented, it may not be visible on the map, but that kind of rail system that we were talking about doesn't really appear to be shown, or at least clearly. Maybe it's underground or something from this kind of vista. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that's implemented. But I think the shifting of the ring is also a good way to open up different parts of the ring for us, like you would in different open world games where the map kind of unlocks itself as you progress through the story.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a very simple way to explain how the ring gets expanded for our exploration, and we unlock new areas that we can go to, and as we push back the banished forces, we can set up encampments and things like that, and really create a living environment that we can play through.
Yeah, I'm also curious that you see in the 2019 trailer, you see that like huge section of the ring that's just gone, and it looks like maybe it's being repaired or something. It's kind of hard to tell, but so this is obviously after that, and we don't see the whole ring, but it looks like, is this maybe the section getting repaired? That section, is that where we are, or are we on a different place? Because I don't think it didn't look like there was any damage to the rest of it. It was just that one section. So are we kind of like in the middle, on the Halo as it's repairing itself in that big empty area?
They didn't show us the entire scope of the ring, but we could be close enough to it to see the damage, but not see the big scar or whatever.
There's definitely a hole that you see when he's going up the elevator.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking
I don't know if it's the large section that you're referring to that's missing, but
it's a big section.
There is a large missing chunk from the ring that is missing.
I'm curious as to how they damaged the ring so badly, because if we remember in Halo 1, the ring's pretty resilient to everything. It took, setting off the Pillar of Autumn to completely destroy it.
Well, it could be that the ring is just in a state of disrepair
if
anyway.
the monitor's not around.
This could be 10,000 years of damage of a Halo ring not being maintained. Or maybe the Banished are stripping it of resources. Maybe they're taking it apart. Who knows?
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, to Krista's point, yeah, maybe part of this ring was destroyed before UNSC presence even came to it, and could have been something like in Halo Wars 2, where the ring ejected parts of itself, or we kind of caused that in Halo Wars 2. But that is a capability of the ring to kind of as a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah, but if it was part of the ring ejected, it would be a square edge. It wouldn't be kind of this jagged kind of edge that we see when we see the broken ring. It would be almost like a perfectly rectangular section of the ring is just not there anymore.
Also, I'm looking at the map now, and when he's selecting the gun battery, it's like he's selecting a mission, because there's a prompt to say start mission. So I think you'll be picking things from the map, and it has another icon, and it has a difficulty icon. So I think you'll go to different areas of the map, and this mission will be a legendary mission, or this one will be heroic, or whatever. So I
think you might be able to. Well, I would imagine you'd be able to.
The overworld, the world itself, yeah, probably, yeah. But I wonder is
world difficulty for so some games do that. The overworld has its own difficulty that you can kind of.
It also
fluctuate.
has a database tab. I know Chris was talking about earlier, but I imagine that might be our codex style area where you'll find information. The upgrades. Upgrades. I want to go in there so badly. Tell me what's in there.
One last sort of question about the destruction of the ring. Do we know of the point to where a ring gets so heavily damaged that it needs to... it can't repair itself with the Sentinels and it needs to return to the Ark? Have we kind of heard of that happening at any point in kind of the books or something to where that is a possibility? Someone in the chat kind of theorized, well, maybe the Banished destroyed the ring to such a degree that it would have to go back to the Ark where Atriox and the rest of the Banished forces are.
Maybe that's something they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to whittle it down to such a level that some automatic protocol kicks in and takes them there.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought, actually, because that would definitely be a good in-lore way to connect the Halo Wars 2 story to Infinite without it sounding too contrived. Yeah, that's definitely interesting, and at least gives you maybe in the future, because we obviously think this is some sort of going to be a live service. We're going to get additional campaigns of some nature in the future. So do we go back to the Ark some point, in a year or 2 years or whatever, however long it'll be, or yeah, I'm really curious.
So to kind of piggyback off that, David, you have kind of made some notes for the article, and I think they kind of touch on that a little bit in the article from Halo Waypoint. Do you want to kind of break down what was spoken in there?
Yeah, so there's a Waypoint article obviously went up right during the showcase, and they gave some kind of interesting points in terms of like the setting, just kind of I think that explains some of the things we saw in the demo, some of your questions. So the campaign demo actually takes place several hours into the story of the game, joining the Master Chief and the pilot, and that's just interesting because I kind of theorized to Colin when we were watching on the stream that maybe the first mission is right after what we saw in the original trailer, that you're doing a corridor shooting maybe on the ship, you're in space above the ring, kind of doing that intro mission, kind of like the Pillar of Autumn, and then you crash on your Pelican down to the ring and it opens up like Halo, like the second mission, Halo CE, and that's kind of where the game takes place. That was my idea. They shot that out of the park anyway with this, if it's several hours before you actually touch down, but then I think it might be several hours before you touch down in this point. You've probably already been on the ring up to now, and maybe this is just you getting here and you get shot down on the way to somewhere else. The new Brute War Chief, his name is Scarum, so that's the guy we met. It's an interesting name. I'd like to hear that said, so I don't fuck it up anymore.
Yeah, Scarum sounds pretty good.
They've said really kind of really at the same point before that they're creating a narrative team that's going to be exciting and entertaining for all players, so don't worry if you're new to Halo or have no idea who the Banished are. Longtime fans will also pick up the continuation of the events of Halo 5 and be rewarded with new mysteries to unravel. So that's pretty much what we expected, with them going back for a quote-unquote reboot and then like obviously picking up where Halo 5 left off. They said the scale of the environment is accessible to players is several times larger than that of the last two Halo games combined, so that's 5 and 4, which I don't think were big games. I guess some of the environments in 5 were big enough. I think there was 1 or 2. There weren't 2. So anyway, it says the game's community will discover hidden rewards, assault the Banished fortifications in brand new ways, a portable shield and grappling hook, the drop wall. It's a fast deploying cover that can be used to fend off enemy fire or even deflect a grenade. The grapple shot opens up new traversal options while also providing new ways to engage enemies. It says, and yes, these new additions to the sandbox will carry over to multiplayer, however they'll function a bit differently. I'm guessing that's the grapple hook. As equipment items can be picked up on the map. And then it says we'll look forward to multiplayer soon. Then they said 2 new members of our voice acting team. So the pilot is Nicholas Roy and the War Chief Scarum is played by Darren DePaul. And then essentially they just said they're designing Halo Infinite to grow and evolve over time so we can continue to deliver experiences to our players well beyond launch. So I think that's interesting to where they're actually getting at. So I was also a couple of screenshots in that article as well.
And I think that's something that was heavily speculated with the subtitle of Infinite, to where it does kind of allude to some ongoing sustainability, but we've never really had that from a campaign point of view and like a story point of view. It's Halo 5 had probably the best sustained model for the multiplayer side of things in recent years, or recent Halo games, and it seems that they are transitioning that at least partly into the campaign with that, and even that kind of that last line that you were saying. So this kind of also goes back into the way those pillars that we've been talking about that kind of raise and lower throughout the ring kind of open up new areas of the map that you can traverse to, and it again just seems like a very simple story implementation to kind of connect a expandable area to then go explore and do a few missions from. So I guess it'll just be interesting to see how closely it resembles what the games as a service model is, where games like Destiny and Division and Anthem, where you kind of have your battle suit and you upgrade that and find different guns and kind of have these RPG elements to it all, where I feel like this might be a little bit more of a games as a service light, where it kind of has some of those elements but still keeps it fairly grounded in what we know as a linear Halo game, kind of offering those side missions and stuff. So the more I'm kind of thinking about it, this seems more like a strange ODST kind of evolution, where we kind of get these missions we can go to on the map, but we have side quests that we can go to have this story that's can be told linearly but also more organically, and just kind of giving it a bigger upscale for graphics and capabilities and size and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I have some serious qualms with the games as a service setup, mostly in that working out a good linear story is difficult to do in that format. So like I mentioned earlier, Destiny, there's so much about Destiny that I really liked, the original, and then just the story, it's just it's hard for me at least to kind of get into, just because I feel like there's you can play that story in different orders, and then it's just like, well, wait, how is this a story? It's like, it's always a little bit of a movie running in my head, and then for me it's a little bit weird, and it kind of takes me out of it if I'm kind of bouncing around doing these random things. So I'm really curious to see how they implement that, if that's the way they go. I definitely think there is a path to make that work. I haven't seen it in a game. Not maybe there's one that I can't think of, but I haven't seen it work out quite the way a normal linear story works out. So I'm really curious to see how they pull that off.
Of the two games that I've played, and I played the beta of Anthem, but that doesn't really count. But of like Division and Destiny, I'd say Division handled the story a little better, because I think it had less for the player to do. You kind of came around to these buildings at these high concentrated points, and you do a mission, and it's a very specific mission with a linear story, and it fleshes out the world that you're in. Whereas what Destiny kind of suffers from when it's talking about its storytelling is that it has all of these different activities you can do, and they all lightly connect to each other. And then doing the campaign, your story mission, well then right after that story mission you can do this other thing, and it doesn't really take you to a linear path. It just kind of tells you another perspective and a story in this corner and a story in this corner, and you may do all these different corners before you then continue on your path to kind of give the player that full capability. So yeah, I think they definitely need to force you to play open world, I guess, but keep you on that path to still give you that cohesive story, because yeah, there is a concern that they can deviate you too far from that and you kind of lose your story beats. And that was pretty much the main criticism for Halo 5. Its story was hard to follow, and that was a linear, first-person shooter game, similar to all the other Halo games. So
yeah, if I have to go around and run around for half an hour like punching rocks to collect minerals to upgrade my armor, I'm going to be not happy.
I agree.
No,
I don't want
Master
that
Chief's
in
not
Halo.
a collector. He'll send people out to do that for him. There's no way you're going to be doing that.
I'm fine with going to a camp and talking with an engineer after I complete a mission to get an armor upgrade, but I like those games for what they are when they're implemented in other games, but I just don't. That's just not a Halo game if it goes too far into that. But I do think, at least what they've showed in the very basic sense of it, it has potential to be a nice sort of change of pace and otherwise kind of world-building nature to it all. The last sort of thing that we got was the cinematic trailer that actually opened the show. It was a pre-rendered visual cinematic trailer, and it was a lot of fancy particle effects and high definition sci-fi tech, and he had Catherine Halsey voicing over the Mjolnir armor being kind of created from the liquid materials and the fibers and the metal all coming together to create the armor. And
we thought she sounded a bit young, so it kind of sounded like Cortana, just so that like it didn't sound like old Halsey.
Yeah, I got the sense that this was an earlier sort of event.
Could
like
be a
it
flashback.
didn't necessarily
Could be.
mean this takes place right before Infinite, but yeah, kind of like what she's almost creating the first Mark
It wouldn't
IV.
be the original suit, because that's obviously his like Halo 2 suit.
I must remind myself.
No, this is the original. This is the suit for this
I
game
would
being
think
made.
so.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
That was pretty obvious.
And-
I guess I didn't look that closely.
You know, it's most likely Cortana, because Halsey has a completely different tone to her voice. Unless they're trying to kind of make us think about which one it is. But I immediately thought of Cortana when this was happening.
Yeah, I'm actually more curious. We see that, like, what planet is that we see? It looks like I think that's the space. It looks like a space elevator, and then you have a big ass canyon with. It looks like
That
some
I'm
sort of
wondering
mining.
whether that's where they mine
like a
for the
mine.
materials in the suit.
like when I thought when I first looked at it may not be Earth, but I had looked at it thinking, oh, is that where the Ark portal
I feel like,
was dug up?
I feel like,
But it looks
'cause
too deep.
We know in Halo Wars 2 that the portal to the Ark is still
now complete.
operational up to a couple months before that. So it would take a lot more than a couple of months to completely remove that structure
Even though
from
this
Earth.
Technology will save humanity.
Because it's like almost as big as a continent.
I didn't think they removed it. It could just be deactivated. It could be just.
Yeah,
It could just
maybe.
flow, fall back into itself. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
On its own.
It's such a
Titanium
beautiful
alloy
vid.
cannot
Go on, Oren, what were you
prevail in
saying?
the face of extinction.
I'm just curious to see, or just to think, like if this is this is the armor
it's not
that
the
the
Ark. I'm
Chiefs
looking
wear.
down.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I don't
Yeah.
know what I was thinking, but I find it strange if Cortana's the one who's
It all means
Yeah.
kind of highlighting this armor and kind of talking about it, because she supposedly wants to control Chief, and she wants to be the one that kind of takes the mantle and assume peace around the galaxy, to kind of give Chief this armor to.
No, it
Go
could
ahead.
be that Cortana did make this armor for him,
Rise on its own.
and that it's just like something she left behind
Titanium
that she was
alloy
planning to
cannot
give him
prevail in
later
the face
afterwards.
of
Who knows?
extinction.
It could have been something like before the event, before she goes cray. Because
Armor.
I mean, don't they have? Isn't there a firmware thing in there that says it's made by Halsey though, and that little like boot up screen?
oh, did you see that? Okay,
We
cool.
there. It's
also
similar to the one that's
could
from the
need
trailer
to
from last
entertain
year.
the idea that we're both right, because there can be another Cortana because there's multiple Halsey brains. So if Halsey was to take one of her other brains
True.
and create another AI, it could just be another Cortana. It might not she might not go as Cortana, but you would think she would have a very similar voice, because it kind of comes from the I'm guessing it comes from the genetics of the brain. Cortina, yeah. Perfect.
It all means nothing.
Now that I'm looking at it,
All right.
I'm still focused on that space station / elevator.
The giant drill.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Look,
so if you go, it looks kind of like a space elevator at first because it's got like that tether hanging down, and it's got something coming up. But then if you go to like 108, let's say 1 minute 8 seconds, it's like you have an overhead shot of it, and there's no
Yeah.
tether coming down.
Could it be
So
some
is
kind
this-
of mining facility? Like it shoots a laser and drills out the
That would be
material?
a big ass laser miner.
I mean, it's a big ass
Orbiting
hole
the
on the
planet.
planet.
I mean, that's what I kind of got, is like an excavation sort of
Like
site from
Forerunner sized kind
like
of
a-
device. though.
I mean,
that's
look at
like
the
UNSC.
Infinity.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
maybe.
make big
Oh, it
shit
is a-
now.
If you go to 144, there is a solid tether coming out of it. where it actually says Halo Infinite Holiday 2020 and it shows the space station, you can see a straight line going way down.
You're right. So maybe it's just
Do you
an
see it?
angle thing or something, but
Maybe it's just something to anchor it down.
That's big. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what
Cool.
that has to do.
Doesn't the Cortana / Halsey voice in there talk about mining the metals and the liquid and something?
She talks about,
that?
like,
So I feel like
creating
these are the.
I wasn't
Yeah.
listening.
So I think it's some sort of Unity space station that fabricates.
Oh, it's definitely. I want to say it could be even in Halsey's journal somewhere where it talks about things having to be made in zero-G environments or something.
Oh, I think that was one of the things.
Wasn't
I think
it?
that was
Yeah,
something.
I think one of the materials,
Zero-G.
quite literally the liquid thing we see moving in the spindle. Yeah, it could be something in that. So, anyway, it's cool. I like this trailer.
It's also this is a Become trailer. Is this going to be kind of like the Believe campaign?
It's called
Halo
Step
3?
Inside.
Is this going to be like
The market. I think so. The marketing is definitely like this is a. You're becoming the hero, become the legend. I think was also, or be the legend. I think is what it's also talked about. The Brute said in that kind of 1 minute teaser that like, oh Spartan, we thought you were dead, but look, you're here now. So it is definitely a rebirth sort of kind of tone coming out of here that you are. The legend is still here. You need to become it. Be reborn and go into what we're going to be, fighting for.
Yeah, is it? It's sort of feels like it's going back to the original kind of way Halo was, where you as the player are becoming the chief rather than the chief being his own kind of character like he was in 4. So I'm curious where that goes, because I did like how they expanded on his character. So I am curious how much of that they will keep and how much they're just going to make him a blank slate. I don't say I'm concerned, but I'm mostly just curious how that plays out.
I like that distinction where it's like, yeah, you're becoming chief as opposed to you just playing as chief.
Yeah.
That is it's an interesting.
I
way
wonder
to
if
view
that's
it.
going to mean dialogue trees. Do we want dialogue trees?
I hope not. No, not my
I
Halo.
love dialogue trees. Well, I mean, I think it would be
Not
interesting.
in this game.
I think the dialogue trees would be interesting that if someone was new to the lore, they could ask for more explanation.
Maybe.
I could see that, I suppose. I just don't want
Like choices and
like
stuff. No.
yeah,
no,
I don't want the lore to be open to interpretation, to where like, oh well, when I played the game, this is kind of how I did, I did this and it resulted in this, and yeah, I doubt there would be multiple endings, but
No, I'm not.
No, I
Yeah.
guess
I'm
that's
not
what
talking
they.
about that. I'm
but yeah, I guess it'd be, if it's subtle enough to be like, someone tells you to go do this, and then there's a dialogue question. It's like, oh, well, why do you want me to do this? And it's like, oh, well, yeah, well, the Banished was here, and they did X, Y, and Z, and then we have to, then, we retaliated, and
It might
yada,
just.
yada, yada.
I'm thinking more of like during a cutscene, Brohammer says, "Come back to me if you need more information," and then you go back to him, and then you can be like, "Who are the Banished? What happened?" Though that kind of dialogue that you can kind of either go through to get the extra details.
I think that's what the database is.
Yeah,
gonna
that
be.
might be true.
That's going to be like a repository of that you can go in your own time and find more information out if you
I
want.
want to play as Renegade Chief and just kill everyone. Just blow up the ring.
You're going to do it anyway.
I mean,
Chris.
think about this. Like, you mentioned BioShock, and they have those audio diaries, and we kind of got audio diaries in Halo 5 and in ODST. And so as you go around and collect these things, yeah, that can be an avenue to fill in some of those stories of what happened here. Maybe we are witnessing through those collectibles is what is the battle that took place 167 days ago on the ring that drove the UNSC off of the ring, and then now Master Chief's here with Brohammer to bring the presence back.
I also want Mopey Chief in the dialogue tree where he just goes, Cortana, why? For every single dialogue option. So you have Renegade Chief where he's just killing everyone, and then Mopey Chief. Mopey Chief, yeah.
Chief.
Just crying. This is the Halo I want.
Well, we're running to about the end of our time. Any last sort of things we want to talk about?
I think what they showed is great, and I hope we get information on when we're going to hear more about it soon.
I agree. I was very happy with what was shown. It was just enough to satisfy my hunger for for all of this, and it gets me very excited for what's to come.
Same. Ditto. I liked what I saw. The gameplay looked good. If you had told me like grappling hook cheap, I would have said fuck off. But it actually looks good.
I agree. I had the same reservation.
Yeah, I definitely.
It's interesting to
It
see.
seemed to hit all the notes that I've been wanting for forever. My only issues I kind of noticed were graphically. There was a couple of weird parts, and I think that might just be the art style.
Or it just
but
might
I
be
think,
because it's a demo, maybe? Maybe they didn't fully render the graphics.
Yeah, maybe it was.
I was thinking that too. I was watching stuff like the Phantom moving didn't look great, and I just wondered like that fly path looked a bit janky.
Yeah, I'm hoping
like
it's not like a Halo 4 opening mission issue where you have that weird ass ship blowing up where it just looked really stupid. I hope we don't have that kind of issue.
Honestly, if I was to sacrifice something, I'd probably sacrifice graphics to get better gameplay and story anyway. But I know this is...
Oh, yeah, I'm not concerned with the graphics themselves as much as it just looking janky. I just don't want it to look weird.
Yeah,
you know?
just look out of place. Well, and also we gotta remember that this is gonna be like the headline of the Xbox Series X. So it has to look good, because it's supposed to be a graphical, like, kind of demo of what the Xbox Series X can do.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed was that in the Waypoint article, they did mention this is going to be fixed 60 frames up to 4K. So this is going to be the same situation we had with Halo 5, where it was 60 frames up to HD. So I'm sure people will get all on about that, but not that I'm surprised, but that they did say that outright.
Can't wait to learn more about Halo. That's really what I have to say to end it all. Well, with that, I guess we'll take it away from there, guys. This will conclude part one, in a sense, of our two-part reaction episode. So next, if you're listening live, we'll get Colin, Aaron, and Tom on air, and you'll be able to listen to their takes of Halo Infinite. They'll hopefully bring up new and different opinions, and you guys can kind of maybe throw some of your similar suggestions their way, like we took from you guys. So thank you very much for being with us. If you want to leave us a voicemail, whether you're listening live or on the regular podcast feed, you can leave us a voicemail at 205-EVOLVED. That's 205-386-5833, and we'll listen to your message on one of our news episodes and respond to you. You can find all of our episodes of all of our different shows on our website, halopodcastevolve.com. It also features links to our Discord servers, Facebook group, Patreon page, Xbox Live, and other information. Just to kind of give you an overview of our other shows, we have Mission Debrief that talks through every single Halo campaign mission, and they're currently working their way through Halo Wars 2 as their last game leading up to Infinite, and they will be doing the same take with Halo Infinite once that releases. Now that we kind of know it's a little bit more open world-like, I'm sure the format of the show might change a little bit, but may give us a little bit more content to talk about as it evolves for that show. We have Halo Book Club, which talks about the extended lore media, like novels and comic books, and our newest show, Builds with Blocks, which talks about the micro action figures and brick-based construction sets, and I think even more were unveiled today during the event, so lots of new information to discuss on that feed. We mentioned our Patreon. Of course, if you want to learn more about it, go to patreon.com/HaloPodcastEvolved. Again, thank you to all of our patrons for your continued support. We have some exciting Patreon updates coming in the near future. We're going to be discussing that in the next couple weeks to share with you as we go into the fall. And lastly, if you want to listen to the growing collection of Halo novels all in one place, you can check out Audible. We have an Audible trial link which is audibletrial.com/podcast evolved, where you can start your free trial today. I've been your host, Oren. Happy Halo Infinite gameplay reveal day. And until next time, everybody, evolved.
Evolved!
Evolved.
It all means nothing until you step inside.